Providence Restaurant Week, and I'd like to welcome my first guest, Kyle Poland. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. From Circe, just a few blocks over here to talk about what Providence Restaurant Week means. Before we start talking restaurant, I want to make sure folks do know the big story on GoLocal right now. Broken by GoLocal, the SEC has named Governor Raimondo in a pay-to-play scheme back from when she was General Treasurer. This was with Ogletree. You can read all about it after live. But let's talk about Providence Restaurant Week. You guys have been jamming at lunchtime, dinner time. How big is Restaurant Week for your business?
Restaurant Week is very important for our business. It's important for our employees. It gives us the opportunity, number one, from a business standpoint, to kind of showcase some of our more special items, our dinner items, our appetizer items. It also gives guests the opportunity, a reason to come in where they normally wouldn't. You know, when you look at some of the pricing, for example, our braised short rib is $34 on our regular menu. But if you come in for dinner for Providence Restaurant Week, you get the entire three-course menu for $35.99, and on top of it, you have your first course and your dessert course, whereas normally if you came in outside of Restaurant Week, you wouldn't be able to benefit from that. So, I mean, if we can't get you out of the house to come into Circe for Providence Restaurant Week, then I don't know how to do it.
So talk with us a little bit about the menus, what you're offering for lunch and what you're offering for dinner.
Yeah. So, just like I previously said, it's a three-course menu. If you come in for lunch and dinner, you benefit from the same. You have an appetizer, you have entrees, as well as dessert. Some of our more popular items, like I already mentioned, the braised short rib is on there, but we also have stuff that's a little bit more approachable, a little more traditional. If you don't want to go too far off the beaten path, we have our meatloaf, which is one of our most popular items. It's a great meal, and I always tell everybody you always will take some home with you when you leave. So
the meatloaf, is that one of your faves? Is that your personal dish?
It is one of my personal favorites. It's not my personal favorite. It's not the favorite, but it is one of my favorites. I would say for an appetizer, probably my favorite is the lobster risotto with avocado ice cream. I tell people all the time, it's the only time you get to have ice cream before dinner. So it's a great appetizer. And then for the entrees, it's a toss-up between the wild boar ragu. When I do have pasta, I go for that thick pappardelle pasta, hand cut. It's delicious. And then outside of that, I would say the braised short rib is another favorite of mine as well.
So talk with us. Circe has been around for a while now, still consistently popular. How much do you mix up the menu? Restaurant Week aside, how often do you revisit it, look at it, keep the favorites, but tweak it with new things?
Well, you always want to change seasonally. I mean, that's just kind of the trend in restaurants across the country, but as well as in Rhode Island. One thing you have to do is you have to pay attention to those seasonal items, so we're always doing that. But you can't change too much because you do have favorites. We literally have guests that'll come in, and they come in for one specific item. So we try to figure out what those items are, and then we keep those, and then other stuff too. Maybe we keep the similar protein. You'll change your chicken dish, and the composition may change with whatever seasonal accompaniments may be. I think the other part too is just knowing your customers, knowing your customer base. So if you know what they like, then you also know what they don't like. So you can make those necessary changes.
And let's talk about what you know and know very well is the bar.
Okay, all right, a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So talk with us about what's the old standbys, and then what are the new drinks? What are people drinking these days?
Well, kind of like we had touched upon a little earlier, we were speaking before this, and one thing I said that the Cosmopolitan was probably one of the greatest drinks to ever be created, but people don't like to order it anymore because maybe it's a little cliche. But if you look at the composition of the cocktail, it's an amazing cocktail. It can be crisp, fresh, it's sweet, and it's sour. So if you look at that and you say, well, what kind of variations can I make? What can I do to kind of make it a little bit more current? So we have a cocktail that most people don't like to order because of the name, but everybody seems to order it anyways. It's called the Panty Snatcher. So it's a vodka-based drink. It's made with elderflower liqueur, which people love. That kind of hit, the market 3 or 4 years ago and really, really became popular. But we use fresh lemon juice and just a little bit of rose water to kind of give it that floral effect. And one thing you're doing in the summertime, if you're using fresh juices, fresh citrus, you'll always make a decent cocktail. On the flip side of it, probably the hottest spirit I would say in this part of Providence for sure is tequila. Last year we saw brown spirits kind of really hit it big, but this year tequila is on fire. People are not only drinking silver tequila, they're drinking reposados and añejos, and they're not just looking for a composed cocktail. They'll drink it on the rocks, they'll drink it neat, or just a splash of little juice, and that's just kind of what's big right now.
What are you seeing on the wine front? Is it another big rosé season?
Rosé is kind of always a staple. I think that what you start to see now with wine is obviously the white wines start to trend a little bit more because people associate it with summertime, but I think if you look at Oregon Pinot Noirs, which are generally a little bit lighter, not so heavy, not so super dry for the summertime, that's a big varietal, but specifically the Oregon Pinot Noirs, as well as some of the French wines too.
Now, do you often, if you're behind the bar, do you get people who really are just like, surprise me?
Oh yeah, all the time.
So if someone, so you say like sweet, like do you have to like guide them to what they want?
It can be difficult because somebody could say surprise me, and a big spirit now is mezcal, but mezcal is not a very approachable spirit. It can be very smoky, and it's a love it or hate it type of spirit. So one thing I always ask is I'll say, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And if I don't say that, I say, what's your favorite fruit? And then that'll give you a flavor profile. You can figure out if they want something juicy, if they want something crisp, if they want something citrusy, and you can go from there. So at least you have the flavor right. So you always look for just a little bit of guidance, but if you ask too many questions, then the guest is probably going to say, well, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and I should have just ordered what I normally drink. So you've got to be careful.
But they want to get you down. You want to get them down the right road for what it is that they're looking to get.
Exactly, yep.
So you guys are hopping both lunch and dinner. Do you recommend reservations?
Absolutely, 100%. Lunch, you can walk in, come in on a walk-in basis. That's no issue. If you have a party of 5 or more, generally we recommend a reservation. For dinner, absolutely 100% a reservation. Fortunately, we just happen to be busy for Restaurant Week, so I want to make sure we get you in and I don't have to turn you away. So let's make those reservations.
And so people talk about summertime in Providence. We're here. It's July 11th. It's hopping. Like it's not.
Yeah, well, Providence is different. I think Providence is starting to evolve, and I think that we're seeing a lot more people, residential living downtown. So there's just a lot more built-in business, which is nice. It makes it a little bit easier for most restaurants downtown. But I really do think that Providence Restaurant Week is a huge hit every year, and I think if you approach it well, you embrace Providence Restaurant Week, and you put out a great product, you will be one of the super busy restaurants downtown.
Do you find people after Providence Restaurant Week, they come back next month, the month after, and said,
Absolutely.
We came for Restaurant Week, and now we're back.
Yep.
Now we love you guys.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And I was thinking about the other day, a lot of people say, we'll get people come off Restaurant Week, it's the only time we'll see them. But that's not the case. If you think about it a little bit more like, well, these people regularly dine out at Gracie's, and that's their go-to spot for the week, or other good restaurants in the area, and they don't really have a reason to step out and say, well, let me try Circe. So then all of a sudden it's Restaurant Week, so they want to try something new, so they come see us. And now maybe we're not stealing that regular guest from another restaurant, but at least we're part of their rotation. So maybe we see them once a month, maybe we see them once a week. Or we get a guest that comes in that's never been here before and says, well, my husband's going to turn 50, or it's my wife's birthday, and this is a beautiful place. And it becomes a special occasion restaurant for them. So it's just, there's so many opportunities to create new clientele and create more relationships with new guests that, like I said, if you embrace Providence Restaurant Week, you will benefit from it, I guarantee it.
Well, I know it's between lunch and dinner, but I also know that there's televisions at Circe, and the World Cup is on right now. So I'll let you go back down the block. I appreciate, Kyle Poland, you're taking the time to come in and talk about Providence Restaurant
awesome.
Week.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll let you go around the corner.
Awesome.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our next guest.